Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and this is Artists of Color. This is a show that we talk to and about artists of color in and around the inner cities of Boston. And today, my guest is Lucilda Dassardo-Cooper. Not only is she a fabulous artist, but she's a good friend. Lucilda, thanks for coming to Artists of Color today. I've been waiting to have you on, and I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you, Elaine. I've been looking forward to this.
See, me too. Lucilda, well, I guess we've kind of like known each other and been acquainted with each other for maybe 3-4 years, maybe longer?
Possibly.
Probably want to say around that time. Because the first time I met you, you were doing the Macondo project and you were doing one of those they were doing the jazz.
Paint jazz.
Yes. And it was at the library.
Okay.
And that's where I first met you. And you did that beautiful house that I loved. Oh my God, I thought that was so beautiful. I know, I owe you.
Thank you.
But I remember that, and I thought that was so beautiful. And I really said, oh wow, this lady's got wonderful talent. Her and I are going to get to know each other. Lucilda, would you tell me, I know you and I talked a little while ago, but do you want to give my artist a little bit background about you and who you are and how you got started as an artist?
It's a long story. It started in my childhood. I grew up in Jamaica. And as a child, I loved the natural world. I loved to go swimming. I loved to just hang out, outside, playing with the butterflies and the flowers. And so there was this sort of bonding that happened with, the natural world, the lights and colors. But my first art project was watching my brother paint. He must have been an assignment that he did for school. And I was so amazed you could put all this color on the paper and make something with it. So I pestered him for a long time till he finally let me paint. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
And I know your brother must have said, let this woman paint so she can leave me alone. But wow. So how old were you?
Probably about 4.
That's fantastic.
So I was his pesky little sister. But
Yes,
he was my, helpful big brother. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Now, now that we've gotten that little bit of information that I'm glad I now know, where in Jamaica were you born?
I was born in a place called Newlands, actually, which was a small district. And the main, I guess, commerce there was agriculture. However, that's been incorporated into a city that's now called Portmore. And my husband describes it as the bedroom city for Kingston.
The bedroom city for Kingston. Wow.
Yes,
so it's very modernized now.
Very, and it's become its own city, has its own mayor and city hall. However, it's mostly, as he said, it's a community that's lives in Portmore but mostly works in Kingston. So there's a lot of travel. Yeah. And now they've made a new highway, so it makes that travel much easier.
Oh, wow. Is Kingston far from Portmore?
No. Portmore, no. It's about 10 minutes on the highway if there's not a lot of traffic.
Like today. Oh, yes. Wow, that's nice. That is beautiful. And what I liked listening to, you were talking at the very beginning about nature, butterflies and the water. I can see you are a nature person.
Very much so. That is our natural state, and of course our artificial state is living in, buildings and houses.
Right.
And if I'm out of nature too long, I begin to feel very depleted. I do need to go swim in the Caribbean. and just sit out under the trees and listen to the breeze.
There she goes, the Caribbean and the breezes.
Yeah, actually, that picture is a Caribbean. The one we saw before was Cape Cod. The one with the boat is Cape Cod.
Oh, okay. Do you go down there? Do you go down to the Cape a lot?
Not lately, but I used to. And in that painting, I actually painted on site, sitting there and painting. My butt hurts.
Oh, I bet it does. Do you find that when you create your pieces, do you find you have a lot of what's going on within you around what you see, and that's how you create your artwork?
If I'm just painting in nature, then it's all about, translating what I see and how I feel about what I see. But if I'm painting in my studio, then it's more internal. It's about the emotions that come up and the images, and sometimes it feels as if I'm just being the vehicle for the painting to happen. So if I can step out of my own way, many times I get a painting that astonishes me.
That's interesting. You talk about stepping out of your own way. And it's funny because we as humans need to do that a lot. We need to step out of our own way. Now, I'm interested. This picture that's up on the screen now, tell me about that. Where is that? Is that
Jamaica.
That's Jamaica. I knew it.
Yeah, that's the beach that I swim at. And there's actually, on the far hillside, there's some suggestions of buildings that's actually Kingston from across the water.
Oh, they're beautiful. I like that. And the children. Is that you?
Treasure Beach is a beautiful beach on the south coast, and it's not so spoiled by, resorts and tourism.
Oh, nice.
And yes, so this lady, the boat comes in, she buys the fish, she scrapes her fish, and she's just finished for the day, sitting there, just enjoying the breeze and the sunset.
See, that's beautiful. That is really beautiful. I'm trying to understand or trying to find out from you how you not really put your work together, because I know it comes from you and what you're around and what you see. But when you work from nature, and that's what you do, when you work from nature, do you find it, I want to say, calming and peaceful?
It's like meditation.
Oh, okay. That means I need to learn to paint, huh?
Yes, you'll find it really, really amazing.
It's funny because I used to do number paints. That's not painting.
Well, it is in a way, looking at the colors, taking the colors and applying them. So
yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to admit, one time when my daughter was very young, I actually did a self-portrait of her.
Very good.
I don't know where it is anymore, but I did it. And she told me, Mine looked like me. I said, okay, I'm glad it did. Tell me about this picture.
Lake Tahoe, that's another painting that I did on site, sitting there. I get so involved when I'm working that I don't realize how long I'm sitting, and then when I try to get up, it's a little bit of a problem. But I was surprised by the colors in Lake Tahoe, because the water is very clear. The colors remind me very much of the Caribbean.
Wow. See, I've never been to Lake Tahoe, so I don't know what the waters look like, but I know pictures I've seen, like of Jamaica and the islands, and you can see down into the water, and it's so crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm swimming in a very clean beach, or I should say a beach that, the water is very clear.
Yes.
I feel like I'm swimming in a jewel, like an aquamarine, and I really understand what aquamarines, are like, because the color of the water and then the sand and the sun shining through the water, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be going to Jamaica next month.
You are?
Yeah, August.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes, I'll be there working in my studio. I'll be painting through mid-September.
So you won't be here?
I won't be here for about a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I haven't been to my studio all year, so I'm
So
really
you
looking
have your own
forward to
studio in Jamaica?
one that I designed and built.
Oh my. Oh, Lucilda, wow. That's fantastic. Oh,
Thank
that
you.
is beautiful.
I think we have some pictures, so we'll probably get them to see them soon.
Okay.
But right now on the monitor, this painting
Tell me about that. It's beautiful.
I call that Cosmic Dancer. It's one of those paintings that, as I said, just sort of stepped out of my own way and let the painting,
Do the work.
evolve. And it represents what the yogis call the dance of Shiva, meaning the vibration of that, brings the universe into being.
Yes.
And so you have the elements of fire, air, earth, water, all the things that make up our existence. And that painting was used for First Night Boston Art in 2007. I was asked.
It was?
Yeah.
See, I don't get to go to First Night too often. I think the 2 times I've ever done it, it was so cold.
Yeah,
I said, I'm not doing
it's
this
winter, right. But there are indoor events too.
Yeah.
I did have an exhibition at the Heinz Convention Center that year.
Oh, nice. Oh, beautiful. Do you ever intend to do that again?
I might be interested. I think the process is different now.
Now?
Yes. Things change.
Yeah, that's true. When you and I were talking, you were telling me about I should actually ask you about this painting.
Veiled Presence. That's a series of paintings.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to.
That I painted when I lived in India. See, Ken and I, my husband Ken, and he's a journalist. We lived in India for 3 years while he was working for the Washington Post. And he covered all of South Asia. And so I traveled around with him as his photographer on some of his assignment. Never really spent much time in Afghanistan, but only got to the border of Afghanistan. He refused to take me there. But all over India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, traveled around, and he wrote his stories and I took the photos. So they were in the Washington Post, they were in the International Herald Tribune. I also did some photography for The Guardian of London. And one of my photos was very popular on Reuters of a central bank bombing in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
But to get back to the paintings.
The veil.
So I had a chance to see women from all over the region in their saris. And I'm always touched by, the color and the elegance, the beauty of their saris. So many times we'd be going down a village street and I would stop to take a photograph because I was struck by some woman, just walking along all these gorgeous colors.
Oh my.
So anyway, India is a very gendered society. In the U.S., we have a racial society. In India, it's more gendered.
Gender.
Yeah.
I learned that recently. Well, I've known a bit, but I've been taking a class at school about, it's health and human services. So I've been reading about the different issues in countries around the world, and I've read a bit about
the gender
India,
issues.
The gender issues, and yes.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was a little bit strange for me also. When I moved here from Jamaica, I had to get used to living in a racially separated society. And so there I had to get used to a gender-separated society. And one of the ways of coping with that was to turn lemons into lemonade. So I painted all these beautiful women. However, you notice their faces are all covered
Yeah,
up,
I noticed that.
or their backs are turned.
Their backs are turned.
So it's sort of a statement about
They're not allowed
them
to.
being anonymous,
Yes.
while still creating a presence. So I call them veiled presence, and I numbered them according to the order that I finished them in. So I did 15 veiled presence paintings. I actually did 14, and then I was asked to represent the U.S. at India's Triennale with paintings from that series. So some of those were shown at the National Gallery in India. And that during that process of the Triennale, there were workshops and art events, and the international artists were asked to do some creating of and interacting with the public, which was when I painted number 15.
Oh, now do you have that, or did the organization keep that?
Oh no, they were my work, so I kept that. But I actually donated it in New York to an organization that supports battered women from South Asia. So they sold it at auction. I think they're called Saheli. They sold it at auction, and the proceeds, of course, were donated to help. Yeah, because a lot of women from South Asia, they get married to a South Asian man, and they'll live here in the U.S. and they'll be treated almost like slaves.
Slaves.
Yes. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was, and since we are really getting into this, because this is actually, I found it to be a fascinating subject when I started reading about it. I have a program, at school, my health program, I read and we watch different videos about different organizations.
Hello?
Oh, we have a call.
Yes, hi. I want to ask you about the photographs of the women that you can only see the back of their heads. Why is that?
That's for you.
Well, thank you for calling. I was just explaining that I tried to show the role that some women in India occupied in the society by almost not because it's a gender-separated society, so they're faceless, they're, anonymous. So all the paintings in this series are called Veiled Presence, and they're all numbered, number 1 through number 15.
So you were not allowed to take their faces?
Oh yes, I have other paintings that I have painted their faces, but in this series I really wanted to focus on the fact that, this was the situation in India. I actually showed the series in its entirety at the American Embassy in India, and many of the ambassadors who were at the reception spoke to me about, how just seeing the representation of women faceless, they felt disturbed by it, but then they realized that, it changed their perception of the role of women in India.
So do you think it had some impact on political change there?
Well, as artists, we record what we see and what we feel. And so I was recording my own discomfort at being called sir when I make a reservation for dinner, or, being an honorary gentleman.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Being called sir when you're making a reservation for dinner. Did you, now I have to ask, since we get really getting into this, were you able to go around, like around the towns and the cities alone?
I was. I'm a Western woman.
Yes, you are. That's right.
However, we're talking about, what, 15 years ago?
Okay.
Today, India has become the back office of the USA. Not only do a lot of young Indians have to learn about American culture, but they are emulating American culture in the way they live. So things have changed a lot, and very, very suddenly in the past 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed I don't see or know many Indian women, but have you been to, what is it, the Sudan?
We did,
Area?
actually. We went to the Sudan. We lived in Egypt for 5 months.
Oh, wow. Oh, I wish I had been in there with
I
you
was
for that
half a
one.
year, and we did take a trip to the Sudan.
The reason I'm asking, because I see a lot of Ethiopian and Sudanese women coming here, and I've noticed the change in the young girls that are going to school here in the United States. Like the older women, they still dress in their traditional dress wear,
Clothing, yes.
but I've noticed that the young girls that are going to school, many of them, they don't dress like that. I mean, they still wear the hair, the hairdress, the hair is
hairpiece.
always covered, but they're wearing jeans and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's the way a lot of young ladies in college and high school dress in Egypt also.
Really?
They're very, tight jeans and
Yes. See?
shirts.
But that tells you the change that
American
women
culture.
is having on other cultures across the world.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's true.
That is fantastic. It's unbelievable. Do you think that's good? Or do you think that we need to not be so
I think
influential on other cultures?
I think we can't really make a value judgment on culture as being good or not good.
Right.
When we grow up in one culture, that's all we know. When we're exposed to other cultures,
It's what we learn.
yeah, and
And we
also
take that.
makes us question the things that we take for granted. So I'm all for, cross-cultural sharing.
Okay. I had to ask. Well, I'll tell you, you know what? We are going to take a break. And
Okay.
when we come back, we will come back with more art from my friend and artist and guest, Lucilda. So we're going to take a break, everyone, and we'll be right back to Artists of Color.
Okay.
Thank you, and welcome back to Artists of Color. And I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. And my guest today is Lucilda Dassardo-Cooper. Artist extraordinaire, I have to say. But I'm learning from talking to her during the first half of our show that she does a lot more than just be an artist. I did not know she was a photographer. And listening to you talk about the women, the gender issues in India is like very surprising, because I thought that, that they weren't so gender, as far as being gender separate. I had no idea that it was, I didn't know it was that strong.
Oh, yes. Gender issues in India is a big topic, especially, from way back when there was the sati, where widows would immolate themselves on their husband's funeral pyre, and especially for royals' families.
Yes.
That was very much expected. And then currently in the news, there's a lot about rapes.
Yes.
So that's another big issue.
Yeah, it is. That was a piece that I had read about also, the rape issue. And also, they get married so very young, like 12 and 13, I believe.
That's right.
They still do.
In the villages, children are married pretty young. Part of it is economics. an older established male may be able to afford to feed a wife, whereas a family of, say, a pretty large family, it helps to not have an extra mouth in the house. So many of these social issues can be traced to economic roots. And so if some of these problems can be solved rather than, moralizing. But we do live in a very interesting world, and it's interesting. I do enjoy traveling around in different countries and seeing how life expresses itself, not just in nature, but among humans. How we choose to live and how we expect other people to live. Yeah, and that's become a big issue that tends to divide us. And of course, we all think that our God is the only God.
There you go. I like this. Tell me where this painting's from.
Jamaica. Actually, that's from sitting on my porch in Jamaica, which they call a veranda there. That's what you would see. And the young man coming in is one of my many cousins. My husband thinks I have hundreds of cousins.
Okay.
And
he owns Jamaica.
And two women are two neighbors that are standing on the bank during a rainstorm.
Oh my.
And we're looking in Egypt. Interestingly, in Egypt, many people, a lot of houses seem to be constantly, continuing to be built, floor on floor and floor.
Wow.
Because families would build,
Homes.
more. Yes, so the children would build on top of the homes of their parents, and then of course the
really?
grandchildren, yes. So we have these high-rises that are really family homes, multi-generational family homes, yeah. And
is there an economic reason for that?
Well, the cost of land, probably. It's easier. And I think that there is a tax exemption that you get if your house is under construction.
If your house is under construction, you get a tax exemption?
I think so.
That's interesting. We should have that here in the United States. I like that. And this one?
That one is my studio in Jamaica.
Oh, can I come home with you when you go to Jamaica? I love that. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
I like that. How many floors?
My husband describes it as a two-story atrium.
A two-story atrium.
Actually, it started because I wanted to have a place to paint.
Okay.
This is the inside. And the platforms, on one end, I have a platform for my paintings and where I work. The other end is a platform with a desk for my husband to work. But when he's in Jamaica, he thinks he's on vacation, so he never wants to work there. And a lot of bookcases with books. And on the lower floor, we have sleeping space and living space. And you notice there is a mosquito net hanging.
I noticed that.
Yes. I love my mosquito nets because that way I can keep the windows open, and even though some of it is screened, some of the doors are not. So
Wow.
If I want to be comfortable, I get under
mosquito net.
Definitely.
Oh
Yes.
my. How often do you go home?
I used to go a lot, but this past year I ended up being busy working on two projects. Well, I worked with Spark, but I also worked with Mass Arts Center for Arts and Community Partnership that houses Spark. Spark comes out of the Center for Arts and Community Partnership.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought Sparks was a separate entity.
No. And so I guess through my work with Spark, I was asked to coordinate a program for a year, which ended up being 2 years. The program was the Community Exhibitions Initiative, working with students and community artists to curate and install exhibitions in partner sites around Mass Art.
Oh, okay.
That was great fun. I enjoyed it.
I know you did. I think, and that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
And that's part of my design for my studio too. This is my bathroom.
Oh, I gotta see that part.
And when I decided that I wanted to create a bathroom with glass blocks, colored glass blocks, I was told, oh, that's not going to work. You need to do this, you need to do that. However,
You did it.
Yes.
There you go.
And I'm sorry I didn't have a better picture to show the
I-
front of the shower,
Yeah.
but
Wow, I've never. You know how you see those types of things on TV? Like I like watching home decoration shows at night, and they're always showing how they're taking these houses and they're redoing them, and they have those glass like showers, or they have them in living rooms
oh,
where there's separations for space. And that's kind of, but to see, I like that. the
I love
bathroom.
glass.
Yeah.
I guess that's something that's innate since my childhood when I used to go to my grandmother's house and she would have these colored stones. I don't know if they were real stones or just glass stones, but she would let me play with them outside in the sun. So I would sit there happily, comfortable for hours just
Oh my
playing with those in the
goodness.
sun. So I have this really deep affinity for
Affinity for
glass
glass.
and colored glass. So
So that means you like stained glass.
I do. I
There
love
you go.
stained
I
glass.
I love stained glass. I think that they're so beautiful.
And one of my regrets is that I did not become an architect. Because
Really?
yes, because there's so much that I would love to do in glass, in colored glass. That would be awesome.
Oh, wouldn't you say art is similar to
Yes.
architect? I mean,
I'm
if you could do your house.
Well, when I was designing the studio, I realized how much I enjoyed architecture.
See?
Just, sitting there, closing my eyes, imagining
visually.
the space, and actually getting it built.
That is fantastic.
That is very fulfilling.
I can see that. I'll bet. Oh my heaven. Do you, I'd like to talk about some of the other places you've been. You've done artwork. I know you've been in other areas of the world.
Egypt. We saw one painting,
of Egypt. And yeah, we did. But I know you've done others. But what was it like were you there with your husband? Did you travel with your husband to Egypt?
Yes,
When he was
actually.
working?
He had a Fulbright
Okay.
comparing English language newspapers with their Arabic counterparts. And so I had a lot of time to paint.
I bet you did.
And I did.
Did you paint like outskirts of Egypt?
I
Not
did.
not just in the city, but like in the
I
out
did.
desert.
I did paint some of the landscape, but I also painted some scenes from the city too, which I overlaid with the pharaonic iconography to sort of explain or show that the concerns of the past are still
Still
concerns
there of the today.
of the present.
Yes, absolutely. You see, I'm an amateur Egyptologist.
That's terrific.
I am. I have been since my daughter was a baby. I love doing research on Egypt.
Well, you'll have to come by and take a look at some of my books and photographs.
I would
and
love to.
oh,
I would really love to.
I found Egypt very, very fascinating.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
It really speaks to where we began as a culture.
Right. And many times people don't. Well, people that are not, are not I won't say interested, are not knowledgeable about that. Don't realize that a lot of cultures come from that.
Yeah, it's really sad that, in the lives of some people, just trying to put food on the table can be so all-consuming. Yeah, that's one of the saddest part of living in modern society.
To be able to
Doesn't
be
give
there, and for you to be there, I think that, I know, so very fascinating, I'm sure.
That was, and it sort of helped me to understand a lot about the art and the development of art and art history, because in Egypt you can see this difference in the artisan tombs where they painted their own tombs. The work was very fluid and flowing and joyous, and whereas when they painted for the pharaohs, the work was very formal, so it looked a little bit more stiff, but to me there's a certain formality to it. And then when the Greeks came in, you can see that stylistic difference when the Greeks decided to become pharaohs.
I know.
Took over India.
Tell me. I remember.
That style, changed.
Yeah.
So it was
Did you go into any of the tombs?
Oh, yes.
When you were there?
I went into tombs, temples, and pyramids.
You went into pyramids too?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
That was I'm happy that I went while I was young enough to climb into the pyramids, because it's
I don't think you could do
kind
that.
of a little bit, I can. It's a little bit of a slant.
I was going to say, do you have to?
It's very slanted, the approach to go down in the pyramids, but there are little metal bars that you can use to stop your step.
Oh, good.
And then, of course, the entrance is very low. So you have to sort of be bent over to go down.
To go down.
Mm-hmm. And so because you're bent over, your lungs is a little bit compressed, and so you have to be, careful with your breath. So you see a lot of people coming up from the pyramid, breathing hard, sweating, and so happy to get out there and get some air. And it makes you, a little timid about going in, but it's fine. You just really need to stay calm.
Well, we have some more work of yours that we want to bring up, but we want to take a very short break, and then we're going to come back.
All right.
Yes.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Thank you, and welcome back to Artist of Color. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and today my guest is Lucilda Dassardo-Cooper. As I said earlier, artist extraordinaire, and I've discovered very Egyptologist extraordinaire. I'm so happy to know that that you've done work there and that you've been there, and tell me about going down in the pyramids. I think that is absolutely fantastic.
I really liked Egypt a lot,
that's
and I
where I
wish I
wanna
could spend more time there looking at the art. It's really fascinating. The stories that they tell on the walls of the tombs and temples, it's
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. Yes.
Were you able to learn a little bit of the hieroglyphics, or do you already have a little bit of that knowledge?
As an artist, we sometimes think in symbols.
Yes.
And so, in a sense, looking at hieroglyphs reminds me of, that sort of symbolic type of imagery, and makes me aware of how far we've come, where the symbols, instead of being pictographs or pictures of things, have now become their own things. So, for example, we see an A and it's an A. It's not, what it may
What
have
have
originally
been.
represented. Yes. So being surrounded by so much ancient art is, it's a little mind-blowing.
I bet it is.
Inspiring too.
There you go. Awe-inspiring is more than anything. Can you tell me where are some of the other places that you've been, and that you've done works?
Paintings.
Yes.
I mostly painted a lot in Jamaica, where I was born, where I grew up, and where I continued to have my studio. India, where we lived for 3 years, and I was interested in India because it's an ancestral place for me. 2 of my grandmothers were from India.
Oh, okay.
We've not been able to trace where,
Okay.
although we've looked through the records, the ones that weren't falling apart at the registry.
That
But yes, and Egypt was, a place that I've been fascinated with since I was a child
There
too.
you go.
So I was really happy to spend nearly half a year in Egypt, and being able to go to the temples and tombs and see the art was fascinating. We went on a visit to Egypt. Ken was attending a conference with the Aspen Institute. And while he was, busy with the conference, I would run off and look at various things. And I really wanted to see more. So when we went to live there for half a year, I had a chance to
really
explore more in depth.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Sorry about the eye there.
We were going to look at one of my Egypt paintings.
yeah.
We just saw one of them. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, if we could find that and bring it back up on the monitor.
That would be great.
And we'll have a chance to explain to you what I mean about, well, actually, this one is in Alexandria, and I love to paint water, and I love the water, so this, the colors remind me very much of the Caribbean. There is another one that was more of a vertical. Well, there is this one also. This, I was telling you that what I do is I take modern Cairo scenes, like this street scene, for example.
like that.
And there's a fellow, he's carrying beef on his shoulder from his car, from his van to the restaurant. And that brought to mind this scene from one of the temples with Isis and Nephthys almost attending to a bull. But you notice the bull is been encased like a mummy from the neck down. And the thought that hit me was, you know, maybe part of the worship of the ancients was a way of sort of perpetrating or keeping things in existence.
Even
Yeah, where they're passing.
passing on.
Yeah, so they probably ate a lot of, you know, meat. But
Yeah, they probably did, you know.
But in a way, it's a reverence for life.
Yeah.
And so seeing that fellow right on the streets brought that to mind. And there's a ceremony called opening the mouth that's represented in one of the temples. And here the...
Is that ISIS?
Yes,
I thought
think
so.
that is
I can tell.
Isis. And she has the symbol of life, the Ankh, applying it to the mouth of, she's the wife of one of the pharaohs. And in that sense of opening the mouth, the ceremony is really meant performed by the priests for the pharaohs. So for her to be performing this for the pharaoh's wife was sort of a little bit unheard of.
Okay.
But in addition, this was a way of allowing the deceased to be able to partake of food. However, it makes me think more of being able to speak also, because part of
having a voice.
Yes, part of that transition in Egyptian mythology of the underworld, of going through the underworld, was being able to speak and being able to defend yourself.
Okay.
And so a lot of the symbols on the coffins are reminders to the people who are buried in them, you know, what they need to speak about when they're defending themselves.
And being
So-
able to.
So whether in judgment their heart is light as a feather or heavy, if their heart is heavy, they're fed to the jackals. There's no immortality for them. If their heart is light and they're able to defend their lives, then they move on to an immortal state. Yes.
Oh,
So
I just learned something.
it's really fascinating, Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, it is. Very much so. I used to have a book on I used to have a book on the Book of the Dead. And I was always flipping through it and trying to learn new stuff. But that was one I had never heard of. And so that now makes me want to go home and look
And
on
look
some
at
other
it.
stuff and see what I see. Explain this one.
This is a mural that I did when I lived in DC. I did with some students at the school that I was teaching at.
Okay.
I was teaching at a school called Fillmore Arts Center, and their focus was on the ocean that year. And so I did this mural that's ceramic and iridescent glass. The waves are
Ceramic and
iridescent glass.
Ooh, that must have
With
been
the
interesting.
students.
Did you have help with that?
I did have a glass company to create the waves and install them. I designed the shape of the waves, which were, you know, the little crest and the trough. And they sandblasted the trough, so we have like two dimensions to the wave. It's beautiful on sunny days. The You know,
Ooh,
the
the waves are
iridescent
just-
glass is just,
Yeah.
you know, sparkling, so
Oh,
it looks
that'd
like
be
the lights dancing on the
beautiful.
water.
Did you take photographs of that, I hope?
You just saw
Yes,
one.
we just saw that.
Yeah.
So
And the
that-
students are very proud of it. Actually, when we lived in Egypt, I had a call from the school to say that they were honoring the 100th anniversary of the school. And one of the things they wanted to talk about was the mural, so they featured that in their anniversary magazine.
Wonderful. Lucilda, thank you for coming to visit me today and being an artist of color. Gonna have you back again. And I'd like to say thank you to my audience for having us in your homes today, and hope that you will come and visit us and be with us again next month on Artist of Color. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Elaine.